The moment Alex Eala walked out of the design center Linz tunnel, the Austrian spring air was already thick with anticipation. Thousands of Filipino fans had traveled from across Europe, from Vienna, from Munich, from Zurich, from Milan, to catch a glimpse of their hero. They had waited for hours in the cold, their flags wrapped around their shoulders, their voices warmed by chants of "Laban, Alex" that had been echoing through the streets of Linz for days. But what happened next, no one could have predicted. Eala didn't just wave, she didn't just sign autographs, she reached into a bag and pulled out stack after stack of her own brand shirts, the Eala jerseys featuring the sampaguita, the national flower of the Philippines, and began handing them to the crowd. The scene that followed was pure chaos. Fans surged forward, tears streaming down their faces, phones raised to capture the moment. Security scrambled to keep order, and watching from the players' lounge, Rafael Nadal could only shake his head in disbelief. The 22-time Grand Slam champion, who has trained Eala at his academy for 7 years, has seen a lot in his career, but he had never seen anything like this. The design center Linz had never seen anything like it. For 35 years, the tournament had welcomed some of the biggest names in women's tennis: Serena Williams, Maria Sharapova, Angelique Kerber, Coco Gauff. But when Alex Eala stepped onto the grounds for her first practice session ahead of the Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open, the atmosphere was something else entirely. An estimated 35,000 Filipino fans had already descended upon the small Austrian city of just over 200,000 residents. They came from Vienna, where the largest Filipino community in Austria resides. They came from Germany, where over 100,000 Filipinos live and work. They came from Switzerland, from Italy, from the United Kingdom. Anywhere a direct flight could carry them to see their hero. The scenes were unprecedented. Fans had camped outside the design center overnight, their Philippine flags tied to lampposts, their chants keeping the city awake. Local businesses, accustomed to the quiet rhythms of a regional tournament, suddenly found themselves overwhelmed. Restaurants added adobo and lumpia to their menus. Hotels that had never hosted Filipino guests now displayed sampaguita flowers in their lobbies. Tournament officials, who had spent decades building relationships with local sponsors and media, were left scrambling to understand what had happened. The Eala effect, which had already crashed ticket systems in Miami and driven 48% ticket surges in Dubai, had now crossed the Atlantic, and it was unlike anything the tennis world had ever seen. But nothing could have prepared them for what happened when Eala finally appeared. The practice session was scheduled for 10 a.m. By 8 a.m., the area outside the design center was already packed. Fans pressed against the barriers, their phones raised, their voices rising in anticipation. When Eala's team van pulled up at 9:47 a.m., the crowd erupted. Eala stepped out, her signature smile lighting up her face, and for a moment, the noise was deafening. She waved to the fans, signed a few autographs, and began walking toward the players' entrance. But then she stopped. She turned back to her team van, reached inside, and pulled out a large duffel bag. What happened next would become the defining image of the Linz Open. Eala unzipped the bag and pulled out a stack of Eala brand shirts, the white jerseys featuring the sampaguita flower, the same design that had sold out within seconds at the Miami Open, the same jersey that had become a symbol of Filipino pride around the world. She walked to the barrier and handed the first shirt to a young girl in the front row, whose face crumpled into tears as she clutched the fabric to her chest. Then she handed out another, and another, and another. The crowd surged forward, not in chaos, but in something closer to desperation. These were fans who had traveled thousands of miles, who had spent money they had saved for months, who had taken time off work and rearranged their lives, all for the chance to be near Alex Eala. And she was giving them a piece of her. Security formed a human chain to keep order, but Eala waved them off. "It's okay," she seemed to say. "They're family." For the next 20 minutes, she handed out shirt after shirt, her smile never wavering, her hands never stopping. When the bag was empty, she looked at the crowd, still hundreds deep, still waving flags, still chanting her name, and her eyes welled with tears. "I'm sorry," she mouthed. "I don't have enough." But the fans didn't need shirts. They had already received something more valuable. They had been seen. The shirts Eala handed out were not tournament merchandise. They were not sponsor giveaways. They were her own brand, the Eala line she had launched just weeks after her controversial Miami Open exit. The design was simple but deeply meaningful. The white fabric, the sampaguita flower embroidered on the chest, the subtle nod to the Philippine flag in the trim. Every element had been chosen to celebrate Filipino heritage. The sampaguita, the national flower of the Philippines, is a symbol of resilience, of purity, of the Filipino spirit. It is a flower that blooms even in the harshest conditions, a fitting metaphor for Eala's own journey. When fans wear the Eala jersey, they are not just supporting a tennis player, they are declaring their identity. They are telling the world that they are Filipino, that they are proud, that they belong. In a country far from home, surrounded by strangers, the jersey is a source of connection. It is a conversation starter, a bonding agent, a reminder that they are not alone. The emotional resonance of the Eala brand is what sets it apart from other tennis merchandise. It is not just about selling clothes, it is about building a community. And that community, as the scenes in Linz demonstrated, is vast, passionate, and fiercely loyal. Eala's decision to give away her shirts for free was a masterstroke of brand building. The shirts themselves cost money to produce. The lost revenue from the giveaways was significant. But the goodwill generated, the images of Eala handing shirts to tearful fans, the viral videos shared millions of times, the stories that would be told for years, was worth more than any sales figure. She understands that her brand is not about profit, one marketing expert noted. It's about connection, and by giving away her shirts, she's deepening that connection in a way that no advertising campaign ever could. When Rafael Nadal saw the videos from Linz, his reaction was immediate and emotional. The 22-time Grand Slam champion, who has trained Eala at his academy in Mallorca for 7 years, has watched her grow from a 12-year-old girl into a global phenomenon. He has seen her struggle and succeed, lose and win, face criticism and rise above it. But he had never seen anything like this. "I have been in this sport for over 20 years, Nadal said in an interview from Mallorca. I have seen Roger give away signed balls. I have seen Serena take photos with fans, but I have never seen a player hand out hundreds of her own brand shirts to a crowd. This is special. This is Alex." Nadal watched from the players' lounge as the scene unfolded. He saw the tears on the fans' faces, the joy in Eala's eyes, the security guards struggling to contain the crowd. He saw something that reminded him of his own connection with Spanish fans, the way they would travel across the country to watch him play, the flags they would wave, the chants they would sing. "She has that connection," Nadal said, "the same connection that Roger had with his fans, the same connection that I have with mine. It is not something you can teach. It is not something you can buy. It is something you were born with." Nadal's words carried weight. He has won 22 Grand Slams, spent years at the top of the rankings, and built a reputation as one of the most respected figures in tennis. When he speaks, the tennis world listens. To see her now, to see her giving her own shirts to fans in Austria, it is incredible, Nadal continued. It is beyond anything I could have imagined when she first walked through our doors. She is not just a tennis player, she is an inspiration. She is proof that with hard work and belief, anything is possible. Nadal also addressed the critics who had questioned Eala's ranking and her results. "The ranking does not define her," he said. "The critics do not define her. She defines herself, and she has shown the world that her value cannot be measured by points alone." Eala's decision to hand out her own brand shirts to fans in Linz is more than a heartwarming moment. It is a paradigm shift in how athletes engage with their supporters. For decades, the relationship between tennis players and their fans has been mediated by sponsors, by tournament organizers, by the structures of the sport. Players sign autographs, pose for photos, participate in fan events, but always within the confines of what is organized, what is sanctioned, what is controlled. Eala blew up that model. She didn't ask permission. She didn't coordinate with tournament officials. She simply reached into her bag and started giving. The spontaneity of the gesture is what made it so powerful. It was not a marketing stunt. It was not a publicity gimmick. It was a genuine moment of connection between a player and the people who love her. She didn't have to do that, one fan said, still clutching the shirt she had received. She could have just waved and walked away, but she stopped. She gave us something of herself. That's why we love her. The viral videos of the giveaway have been viewed millions of times. News outlets around the world have covered the story, and other athletes, in tennis and beyond, are taking note. This is how you build a brand, one sports marketing expert said. Not through ads, not through endorsements, but through genuine connection. Eala just gave a masterclass in fan engagement. For Eala, the giveaway was not about marketing. It was about gratitude. She has spoken openly about the support she has received from the Filipino community, about the privilege of playing in front of people who see themselves in her. I always make it a point to be grateful, she has said repeatedly. Coming from where I come from, I've seen some serious poverty. I've seen serious struggle. Although I haven't lived through that struggle myself, I'm able to appreciate what I have. That appreciation translates into moments like this, moments that can't be scripted or manufactured, moments that reveal character in ways that press conferences never can. As the euphoria of the shirt giveaway settled, Eala turned her attention to the task at hand, the Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open itself. The tournament, now in its 35th edition, had been moved to indoor clay for the first time in its history. The surface change was significant: slower conditions, higher bounces, longer rallies, the need for patience and tactical awareness that hard courts do not demand. For Eala, who had trained on clay for 7 years at the Rafael Nadal Academy, it was a return to her roots. Her record on clay is modest. She has won just 3 of her 10 matches on the surface at tour level and has not progressed past the second round in any clay event so far. She made her main draw debut at Roland Garros last year, but lost in the opening round. The challenges are real. But Eala has never been one to shy away from a challenge. In a podcast interview with former world #1 Andy Roddick, she spoke about the need to adjust as opponents are now studying her, following her massive rise in the WTA Tour. Coming into tournaments now, people know me more. There are more videos of my game online, but that's the case everywhere now, she said. In Indian Wells, they knew me. In Dubai, they knew me. Miami is special because that's where things clicked for me. But at the end of the day, it's still just another tournament. Her approach to the clay season is characteristically grounded. Anything can happen. I could win the whole thing or lose in the first round. If I don't get a win here, I'll get it somewhere else. The Linz field is stacked. Defending champion Ekaterina Alexandrova leads the draw alongside Yelena Ostapenko, Clara Tauson, and Ludmila Samsonova. Eala enters the tournament unseeded, her ranking having dropped from number 29 to number 45 after her 4th-round loss to Karolina Muchova at the Miami Open. But seeding, as she has proven, is not the measure of a champion. Eala's shirt giveaway in Linz will be remembered for years to come, not because of the shirts themselves, but because of what they represented. In a sport that often prioritizes results over relationships, Eala reminded everyone why she has become the most beloved player in women's tennis. It is not because of her ranking. It is not because of her titles. It is because of who she is. The fans who receive those shirts will treasure them forever. They will tell their children about the day Eala handed them a jersey. They will remember the smile on her face, the tears in her eyes, the way she looked at them like they were family. And somewhere in Mallorca, Rafael Nadal will remember too. He will remember the 12-year-old girl who arrived at his academy with nothing but a dream. He will remember the years of training, the sacrifices, the moments of doubt. And he will remember the day he watched her hand out shirts to thousands of fans in Austria, a smile on her face, a nation behind her. "I've never seen anything like this," he said. And he was right. Eala walked out of the design center Linz tunnel, reached into a bag, and pulled out stack after stack of her own brand shirts, handing them to the thousands of Filipino fans who had traveled from across Europe to see her. The crowd went wild. Security scrambled, and Rafael Nadal watched from the players' lounge, shaking his head in disbelief. The Eala brand jerseys, featuring the sampaguita, the national flower of the Philippines, have become a symbol of Filipino pride around the world, and by giving them away for free, Eala deepened her connection with her fans in a way that no marketing campaign ever could. She is in Austria for the Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open, a WTA 500 event that has been moved to indoor clay for the first time in its 35-year history. Her ranking has dropped from number 29 to number 45 after her loss to Karolina Muchova at the Miami Open. The Czech curse remains unbroken, but she has something more powerful than any statistic: the love of a nation that will not be silenced. The clay season stretches before her. Linz, Stuttgart, Madrid, Rome, Roland Garros. The challenges are real. The road is long. But after what she did in Linz, after she gave away pieces of herself to the people who love her, one thing is clear: Eala is already a champion. Not because of the tournaments she wins, but because of the hearts she touches. What do you think about Eala giving away her brand shirts to fans in Austria? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe now for daily WTA news, match breakdowns, and stories that go beyond the scoreline. Because at Rally Radar, every day is match day.